Welcome to this episode of Dr. Ambedkar Thoughts. In our last video, we have discussed Dr. Ambedkar's views on why safeguards are required for backward and depressed classes in the Constitution. There is a fierce debate on the subject of reservation in government services, which account for only 1.2% of the entire job market. Let us first understand Dr. Ambedkar's thoughts on reservation for SC/ST backward classes in public services. During 1928-29, Dr. Ambedkar was an elected member of Committee of Simon Commission. He sent an independent report to the committee because he did not agree with the report prepared by his colleagues. In that report, he wrote in detail about why there should be special constitutional provision for backward classes in the public services in India. In this report, Dr. Ambedkar pointed out that public services of the country which are open to Indians are cornered by upper caste by reason of various circumstances. The non-Brahmins, the depressed classes and the Mohammedans are virtually excluded from them. He writes, they are agitating for securing to themselves their due share in the services. They prefer appointment by selection to the system of appointment by an open competition. These demands are vehemently opposed by the Brahmins and allied classes. They say that interest of state requires that efficiency should be the only consideration and not caste and creed in the matters of appointment by selection to the system of open competition. Education merit is the only test for efficiency, and public services should be filled by competitive exams which will be open to all. Dr. Ambedkar writes, the view taken by upper caste in the matter looks fair on the face of it. Competition open to all presupposes democratic education system in which everyone has access to same standard of education and facilities are sufficiently widespread. This basic condition is conspicuous by its absence. The system of open competition creates an illusion of fairness and backward classes are not fooled by it. So they are demanding strongly advocating claim of backward classes in public services. Dr. Ambedkar writes, those who stress more on efficiency as the criteria for entry into the public services do not have complete understanding of administration of modern India. They think that administration in modern times is responsible for administering the laws enacted by legislature. Beyond question, this is a very incomplete understanding of its scope and significance. Oftentimes, under the pressure of time or convenience, a government department is nowadays entrusted with wide powers of rule making for the administering a particular law. It includes the making of rules which have the force of law and working them out. This system of legislation by delegation has become a very common feature of all modern governments and likely to be on the increase in years to come. It must be accepted as beyond dispute that such wide powers of rule making affecting the welfare of large classes of people cannot be safely left into the hands of administrators drawn from one particular caste, which is a matter of fact is opposed to the rest of the population in its motives and interest, does not sympathize with the living forces operating in them, and is not charged with their wants, pains, cravings and desires, and is inimical to their aspirations simply because it comes out best by the test of education. Even though assuming administration involves nothing more than the process of applying laws as enacted by the legislature, it does not in the least weaken the case of backward classes. For officers drawn from particular caste and whose mind consciousness of caste sits closer than consciousness regard to for public duty may easily prostitute their offices for the aggrandizement of their community and to the detriment of the general public. He elaborated this with many examples. He writes, take the ordinary case of Mamlatdar administering the law relating to letting of government lands for cultivation. He is no doubt merely applying the law, but in applying he may pick and choose the lazies according to predilection and very possibly may decide against lazies on ground which may be communal in fact, although they may be non-communal in appearance. Take another illustration of an officer placed in charge of census department, in which capacity he is called upon to question of nomenclature of the various communities and of their social status. An officer in charge of his department by reason of his being a member of particular caste in the course of his administration may also do injustice to a rival community by refusing to it in the nomenclature or the status that belongs to it. Instances of favoritism, particularly on the ground of caste and creed, are common occurrence, although they are always excused on some other plausible ground. This is inevitable. Class rule must means class interest and class prejudice. If such results are inevitable, then it must raise query in the minds of honest people whether efficient government has also given a good government. If not, what is the remedy? Dr. Ambedkar says, my view is that disadvantage arising from the class bias of the officers belonging to Brahmin and allied castes has outweighed all the advantages attending upon their efficiency, and that on the total they have done more harm than good. As to the remedy, the one I see is a proper admixture of the different communities in the public service. He said he would not be prepared to allow devolution of such large powers if I feel that those powers are likely to fall in the hands of any one particular community to the exclusion of the rest. This may perhaps import a small degree of inefficiency, but it will supply most corrective to the evil of caste bias. This has become all the more necessary because of the social struggles that are now going on in the country. The struggles between the Brahmins and non-Brahmins, between Hindus and Mohammedans, between the touchables and untouchables, for the destruction of all iniquities and establishment of equality. With all their bitterness, cannot leave the judges, magistrates, civil servants and police without being influenced in their judgment as to the right or wrong of these struggles. Being member of the struggling communities, they are bound to be partisan. With the result of that, there may be a great loss in the confidence reposed by the public in their servants. Dr. Ambedkar puts forth all the above arguments on the basis of administrative utility. He supports his argument further on moral ground also. He quotes Mr. Gokhale's speech, in which Mr. Gokhale listed moral harms caused to Indians because of their exclusion from public services under British Raj. Dr. Ambedkar draws parallel and argues that the same logic holds good for the inclusion of backward classes in the public services. Mr. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, who was once president of Indian National Congress, observed in his speech that there is a moral evil that Indians are not the part of the administration. A kind of dwarfing and stunting on the Indian race is going on under the present system. Indians are living in the atmosphere of inferiority, and tallest of us must bend in order that exigencies of the existing system may be satisfied. The upward impulse felt by the schoolboy of the England, he one day may become Gladstone, a Nelson or Wellington, and which may make him put in the best effort to the best of his ability, such an impulse is denied to Indians. The fullest height of which our manhood is capable of rising can never be reached by us under the present system. The moral elevation which every self-government people feel cannot be felt by us. Our administrative and military talents must gradually disappear due to sheer disuse. Dr. Ambedkar asserts that same argument hold good in favor of backward classes under the present administration, where the circumstances make entry of only upper caste possible and deny any opportunity to backward classes and Muslims. Dr. Ambedkar argues in the same way that exclusion of backward classes and Muslims from the public services is also a kind of dwarfing and stunting of these communities, and they are forced to live in the atmosphere of inferiority, and tallest among them has to bend. How can they feel any upward impulse like any other upper caste schoolboy that one day or one of them could be a Shastri, Sinha, Ranade or Paranspe? He asks the other very pertinent parallel questions. How can they rise to the full height of manhood under the present system? How will they feel any moral elevation like all self-governing people feel? They lament that their administrative talents would gradually disappear due to sheer disgust. If exclusion of the advanced community from entering into the public services is a moral wrong, the exclusion of the backward communities from the same field must also be moral wrong, and if it is moral wrong, it must be righted. He pointed out that these are same considerations that were urged in favor of Indianization. The case for Indianization did not rest upon efficient administration. It rested upon consideration of good administration. European bureaucracy was not less efficient. They had improved their roads, constructed canals on more scientific principles, effected transportation by carried their letters by penny post, flashed their messages by lightning, regulated their weights and measures, corrected their notion of geography, astronomy and medicine, and stopped their internal quarrels. European bureaucracy constituted most efficient government possible. Efficient as though European bureaucracy condemned, as it was found to be wanting in those qualities which make for humane administration. Those who clamored for Indianization opposed to stream of flowing in the direction of backward classes. Case for Indianization also include the case for backward classes. We must remember by backward classes, Dr. Ambedkar implies depressed classes, backward classes and Muslims. In states and minority, Dr. Ambedkar writes, the problem of untouchable is a formidable one for the untouchable to face. Untouchables are surrounded by a vast mass of Hindu population which is hostile to them and which is not ashamed of committing any iniquity or atrocity against them. For the redress of these wrongs, which are matter of daily occurrence, untouchables have to call in the aid of administration. What is the character and composition of this administration? To be brief, administration in India is completely in the hands of the Hindus. It is their monopoly from top to bottom. It is controlled by them. They dominate the police, the magistrate and the revenue services. Indeed, and every branch of the administration. The next point to remember is that Hindus in the administration have the same positive, antisocial and inimical attitude to the untouchables which the Hindu outside of the administration have. Their one aim is to discriminate against the untouchables and to deny and deprive them not only the benefits of the law but also protection of law against tyranny and oppression. The result is that the untouchables are placed between the Hindu population and Hindu-ridden administration, and one committing wrong against them and other protecting the wrongdoer instead of healing the victims. Given these realities of caste consciousness in India, Dr. Ambedkar suggested that the only remedies is proper admixture of different communities in the public services, so that all sections have full trust in the administration and their social justice for deprived and exploited classes. In our next video, we will discuss many prevalent myths about reservation. Jai Bhim.